Welcome to the next installment of our Aussie Author Month romance vodcasts. Thanks for coming back. We're really enjoying talking about our favorite books in the romance subgenres. Today we're going to talk about fantasy romance. I'm kind of embarrassed about the book I'm about to show because I'm afraid that my daughter got a hold of it and the cover is a little bit torn in the corner. But this is Denise Rossetti's The Lone Warrior. It's her latest book in the Four-Sided Pentacle series. She certainly got her start writing erotic fantasy for Alora's Cave. And now that she's with Berkeley, her fantasy romance is still quite hot. But I wouldn't have put this in an erotic romance category, even though that's the award that it won at the recent ARA Awards. I think this is probably her least erotic book, but I think it really works so well with the characters. They're both so closed off for different reasons and in their own way that to have leapt into a sexual relationship, in particularly as uninhibited as some of Denise Rossetti's scenes have been in the past, would have been completely inappropriate, and it really would have done a discredit to both of them. So this is really a fantasy romance, and if you haven't really tried fantasy romance, or if you're not sure if you like it, I really recommend it. I know that some people can be intimidated by the world building, but it's really easy to follow. It's almost really seamlessly built into the overall story. There's nothing there that's going to cause any hiccups, and even the names are quite manageable. The heroine's name is McCready, and the hero's name is Walker, so perfectly pronounceable, and just really lovely to read. And the second fantasy romance book that I want to talk about is Heart's Blood by Juliette Marillier. Now, she writes mostly fantasy. Her books often have a romantic element in it, but this is a standalone book that I really think is a romance novel as well as a fantasy romance. It has a really strong focus on the character all the way through, and a really nice ending at the end. It's got almost a fairy tale quality to it, and sort of a gothic. It's almost a gothic Beauty and the Beast set in a fantastical world, and it was just really lovely to read. So I highly recommend this one as well.
Look what I have.
And you have the nice cover. I just have the advanced reading copy, sort of paper cover.
So I've got The Lone Warrior as well by Denise Rossetti. I've actually reviewed this book, and by the time this podcast goes up, the review should be posted on the blog. I didn't realize it was I think it's book 5 of a series. I didn't realize that when I started it. So actually you can read it without knowing much about the series. I think, though, towards the end, it becomes a bit of a problem because there are things that had happened before that are kind of glossed over. And so it feels like there wasn't enough world building to explain some of the things that happened or some of the inconsistencies in, characters' powers and stuff. But I think that they're explained in previous books. I was really puzzled as to why this won an erotic romance award, because it's explicit, but I don't think it's necessarily erotic. And I think as far as fantasy fiction in general goes, I don't think it's any more explicit than some of the other books that are out there. I do love the beginning of this book. It features a heroine who has been really quite mistreated in her childhood, but she managed to survive it, and so she's very sort of introverted and very, very suspicious of people. And I think the beginning, when you start to get to know McCready, is quite well written and quite strongly written. And there's my favorite bit of the text is when she explains about how she used to masturbate in a closet. But anyway, in context, it sounds better than that. And I think I quoted in the review. So there's some good writing in this one, but I think some of the world building just falls apart if you haven't read the rest of the series.
That might be possible because I've read the rest of the series, so I was aware of what was going on. It's funny,
Well,
my favorite parts in my favorite part of the text is whenever she asks Walker what he's thinking, because she has had so little human contact in her life that she can't read people. She's sort of, it's almost like a touch of autism in terms of she just doesn't understand about facial cues and body language. And so she asks Walker all the way through the book, what are you thinking? Tell me what you're thinking. And it just becomes such a touching, and then it becomes a really erotic thing, and I just loved it. I just thought it built so beautifully.
I agree. I remember those scenes. And they're actually quite funny in the beginning because people think she's just the rudest person because she just didn't have the social graces that people kind of were expecting from her. And here she is, like, thinking, what have I done? I haven't done anything. Like, I didn't mean to do it. So basically she ends up having to proactively ask people, you have to tell me what I'm doing wrong. So yes, I totally agree. That was really well written. The other book that I have just finished reading is called Destiny of the Light by Louise Cusack, and it's published by Momentum Books. It's, I think it's first of a trilogy. It's marketed as fantasy rather than romance, so it's kind of fantasy with romantic elements. It was an interesting read. I'm not sure I'm going to read on in the series because it's not romancy enough for me. The thing I like about it is that it features a lot of female, strong female characters, so female warriors, female leaders. The heroine's not so much one of the strong females, but I suspect that she's going to get there in the end by book 3.
I'm really interested in reading a debut novel by Kylie Griffin. It's called Vengeance Born, and it's a romantic fantasy as well. And I have the book, but it's beside my bed, so I can't show you the cover. And I've read some reviews of it, and apparently it has some pretty intricate world building as well, but a lot of the conflict that happens within the book is actually religion-based, so I'm really interested in seeing what happens with that one as well. Alright, so that concludes fantasy, and up next we have our last podcast in our little series here about subgenres in the romance overall genre, and that is books with romantic elements.